Juries are sympathetic to harassment victims, but corporations have deep pockets for legal defense. What would you do? Donald asked. Rachel smiled slightly. I'd ask myself what I really want. Do you want revenge to make them suffer the way you're suffering? Or do you want justice to prevent this from happening to other people? Both are understandable motivations, but only one of them will leave you able to move forward with your life afterward. Donald considered that carefully. What if it could be both? Then you'd need a very carefully coordinated plan. Excellent timing. And probably some luck, Rachel said. But I've seen it done. The key is, you have to be absolutely certain this is what you want. Because once you pull that trigger, there's no taking it back. Lives will be destroyed. Not just David's and Glenda's, but potentially yours too. You'll be in the middle of a very public scandal. I'm certain, Donald said. They spent the next hour mapping out strategy. Rachel would prepare divorce papers, but hold them until Donald was ready to file. She'd also quietly reach out to the women who'd left Meridian, particularly Jennifer Brooks, to gauge their interest in breaking their NDAs if legal grounds existed. There's one more thing, Rachel said as their meeting concluded. You need to think carefully about your wife. I know she's hurt you terribly, but the situation is complex. David is her supervisor. There's an inherent power imbalance there. The company created an environment where this kind of relationship could develop. I'm not excusing her choices, but she's also potentially a victim of workplace sexual harassment, even if she doesn't see it that way. Donald nodded, though privately he wasn't sure he agreed. Yes, David had power over Glenda's career, but Glenda had made daily choices to lie to Donald, to maintain the affair, to plan to financially ruin him in a divorce. Those were active choices, not passive victimization. Still, Rachel's words stayed with him as he drove home. What did he really want? Did he want Glenda to suffer? Or did he want to feel like his pain had meant something, like some good could come from this destruction? Wednesday evening, Donald was grading papers in the living room when his phone buzzed, with an email from James. The subject line read, "Urgent, you need to see this." The email contained screenshots of text, messages between David and Glenda from earlier that day. James must have hacked into one of their phones or found a way to access their communications. Donald knew he probably shouldn't ask how James had obtained these messages, but he was grateful for them. David, Patricia asked about Miami. David, she's suspicious. Glenda, what did you tell her? Glenda, conference stuff. Meetings and dinners. She didn't buy it completely. We need to be more careful. David, maybe we should cool things off for a while. This is getting complicated. Glenda, we've been through this before. Just a few more months until your promotion is locked in and your salary increase kicks in. Then we can make decisions about leaving our spouses. I'm not losing you because we got impatient. David, do you really think you'll leave Patricia? You've been saying that for months. Glenda, I promise, V. By this time next year we'll be together for real. No more hiding. We'll both file for divorce around the same time. Say we're moving on from dead marriages. No one will connect it to us being together. David, I hope you mean that, because I can't keep lying to Donald forever. He's a good man. He doesn't deserve this. Glenda, then end it. Tell him you want a divorce. You don't need to mention us. David, I can't, not yet. He'd ask too many questions. And you know Donald, he's analytical. He'd figure it out eventually. Besides, if I file now, we'd have to split everything 50-50, maybe worse. Better to wait until after the promotion. After I've moved some money around. Then I'll have more leverage. Glenda, smart thinking. That's my girl. This is why you're going places. You think strategically. David, I learned from the best. What time should I tell Donald I'll be home tonight? Glenda, late. I booked us a room at the Intercontinental. Room 1247. I'll be there by 7. Bring that black dress I like. David, you're terrible. I love it. Glenda, I love you too. See you soon. Donald read the messages 3 times, each pass making him feel colder, more detached. Glenda wasn't just cheating. She was actively planning to financially devastate him. She was going to move money around, hide assets, wait until she had maximum leverage, and then divorce him on her terms, leaving him with as little as possible. And David was orchestrating the whole thing, encouraging Glenda to be strategic about destroying her marriage. so he could maintain his affair without consequences. The cold fury Donald had been cultivating crystallized into diamond-hard resolve. This wasn't about a moment of weakness or a mistake anymore. This was calculated, premeditated betrayal. They were actively plotting against him, believing he was too naive and too trusting to ever figure it out. Donald forwarded the screenshots to Rachel Morrison with a simple message. "Timeline needs to move up. How soon can we strike?" Her response came within 20 minutes. "I've been making calls. Jennifer Brooks is willing to talk. She's angry about being pushed out for Glenda. She has her own documentation and emails. I can probably get her to file an EOC complaint by end of week, which would give us the opening we need. Can you be ready by Monday?" Donald typed back, "Monday works. Let's do this." He deleted the email thread, cleared his browser history, and went back to grading papers as if nothing had happened. An hour later, Glenda texted, "Working super late. Big project. Don't wait up. Love you." Donald knew exactly where she was. Room 1247 at the Intercontinental. Probably wearing that black dress David liked. Probably drinking champagne on the company's expense account while she planned Donald's financial destruction. He texted back, "No problem. Love you too." Then he poured himself a bourbon, something he rarely did on weeknights, and sat on their back deck in the cool November evening. The house behind them had their Christmas lights up already, twinkling white lights strung along the roofline. Normal people living normal lives, probably dealing with normal problems, like what to cook for Thanksgiving, or whether to get their kids the new gaming console. Donald's problems were decidedly not normal. He thought about the past 6 years, their wedding at the vineyard in North Georgia, Glenda in a simple white dress, both of them so young and optimistic. The year they'd spent living in a tiny apartment in Virginia Highland, so broke they'd eaten ramen 3 nights a week, but so happy it hadn't mattered. The day they'd closed on this house, standing in the empty living room and dreaming about filling it with furniture and memories and eventually children. Had any of it been real? Or had Donald been living in a fantasy while Glenda played a role, waiting for something better to come along? He'd probably never know. And maybe it didn't matter. What mattered now was protecting himself, stopping David from victimizing anyone else, and making sure that actions had consequences. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments what you would have done in Donald's situation. Thursday and Friday passed in a blur of careful normalcy. Donald went to school, taught his classes, graded papers. He came home, made dinner, watched TV with Glenda when she wasn't working late. He played the role of the devoted husband perfectly, never letting his mask slip, never giving any indication that he knew the truth. Friday evening, Glenda suggested they go out for dinner, a rare treat during her busy season. They went to a nice Italian place in Decatur, sat across from each other in a cozy booth, and talked about their plans for Thanksgiving the following week. "My parents want us to come to Savannah," Glenda said, twirling pasta on her fork. "But I was thinking maybe we could do Thanksgiving here, just the 2 of us. I feel like we've been so busy lately. It would be nice to have a quiet holiday together." "That sounds perfect," Donald said, thinking about how by Thanksgiving their marriage would probably be in ashes, and they'd both be retaining lawyers. "Donald," Glenda said suddenly, reaching across the table to take his hand, "I know I've been distracted with work. I'm sorry about that. You've been so patient and supportive, and I don't tell you enough how much I appreciate it." Donald looked at her hand covering his, the same hand that wore the wedding ring he'd saved for 3 months to buy. "It's okay. I know how hard you work. Things will calm down after the holidays," Glenda promised. "And then we can really focus on us," she said. "Maybe plan that vacation we've been talking about, somewhere tropical. Just you and me reconnecting." "I'd like that," Donald lied, wondering if Glenda had planned to use that vacation to ask for a divorce, softening him up with a romantic getaway before delivering the blow. They finished dinner, and Glenda insisted on taking a selfie. "We never take pictures anymore." She posted it to Instagram with the caption, "Date night with my favorite person. I'm so lucky." Donald forced a smile for the camera, and later that night he'd look at the photo and marvel at how convincing they both looked. 2 people who appeared perfectly happy, perfectly in love, with no indication that everything was a carefully constructed lie. Saturday, Donald received a text from Rachel. Jennifer Brooks is filing her EOC complaint Monday morning. She's also willing to talk to a reporter. I've connected with Krista, Price from the Atlanta Business Chronicle. Everything is in place. Are you ready? Donald looked at Glenda, who was in the home office on a weekend work call. He could hear through the door. Her intimate voice, her low laughter, David's name mentioned repeatedly. He thought about the hotel room in Miami, about the text messages planning his financial ruin, about 6 years of trust and love casually, discarded for career advancement and excitement. He texted back, I'm ready. Monday morning, 9 a.m., file everything. The dominoes were set. In just over 48 hours, David, Price, and Glenda, one would discover that underestimating someone is the most dangerous mistake you can make. And by the time the dust settled, they'd both learn a lesson about consequences that they'd never forget. Donald deleted the text, put his phone away, and went outside to the yard where Glenda was raking leaves. It was a beautiful late November afternoon. Mild temperature, clear blue sky, the kind of day that felt like a gift. Need help? He asked. Glenda smiled up at him, looking young and carefree in her old college sweatshirt and jeans. Always, you want to bag while I rake? They spent an hour working together in companionable silence, falling into the rhythm they'd developed over 6 years of shared life. The leaves made satisfying crunching sounds as they were scooped into bags. Their neighbor waved from across the fence. A dog barked somewhere down the street. Everything felt aggressively, mockingly normal. This time tomorrow, Donald thought, everything changes. He was ready. Monday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth for early December in Atlanta. Donald woke at 5:30 a.m., a full hour before his alarm, adrenaline already coursing through his system like electricity. This was the day. After 2.5 weeks of careful planning, evidence gathering, and strategic coordination, everything was finally in place. Glenda was still asleep beside him, her face peaceful and unguarded, dark hair spread across the pillow. Donald looked at her and felt nothing. Not anger, not love, not even sadness anymore. Just a cold, clear certainty that what he was about to do was necessary and just. He slipped out of bed quietly and went downstairs to make coffee. The house was still dark and silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of an early morning garbage truck. Donald stood at the kitchen window, watching the sky lighten from black to deep blue, and reviewed the timeline in his head one more time. At 6:47 a.m., his phone buzzed with the first message. Rachel Morrison. Jennifer Brooks is filing her EEOC complaint at 9 a.m. this morning. Her lawyer has also sent a formal notice to Meridian Pharmaceuticals' legal department, informing them that she considers her NDA void due to the company's continued pattern of harassment. We have our smoking gun. At 7:03 a.m., another text from James. Patricia Price responded to your email. She wants to meet today. I gave her your number. She sounds devastated but determined. At 7:15 a.m., Rachel again. Divorce papers are ready to file. I'll have them served to Glenda at her office at 10 a.m. maximum. Professional embarrassment. I've also sent our complete evidence package to Meridian's board of directors, their general counsel, and their head of HR. They'll have it by 9 a.m. The package includes documentation of David's pattern of harassment, the hotel receipts, the text messages, everything. They'll have no choice but to act. At 7:22 a.m., James just confirmed. Krista Price from Atlanta Business Chronicle has everything. She's running a preliminary story online today at noon. Print edition with more detail Thursday. Donald took a deep breath and typed responses, confirming receipt to both Rachel and James. The machinery was in motion now. There was no turning back. He felt strangely calm, like a general who'd planned a battle for months and was now watching his strategy unfold exactly as designed. Glenda came downstairs at 7:30, already dressed for work in a sharp, charcoal suit with a crimson blouse. Underneath her power outfit, she called it. She poured coffee and immediately checked her phone, frowning at something on the screen. Everything okay? Donald asked, keeping his voice casual. Weird email from Jennifer Brooks, Glenda said, scrolling. Something about filing a workplace complaint. David forwarded it to the whole leadership team. asking if anyone knows what she's talking about. Huh, Donald said neutrally. What kind of complaint? I don't know. Something about a hostile work environment. Glenda shook her head dismissively. Jennifer's always been a troublemaker. She couldn't handle the pressure of the senior account manager role, so she transferred to Boston. And now she's trying to blame everyone else for her failures. It's pathetic, honestly. Donald said nothing. In a few hours, Glenda would understand exactly why Jennifer Brooks was a troublemaker. Glenda kissed him goodbye, a quick distracted peck, and headed for the door. I might be late again tonight. David wants to do damage control on this Jennifer situation, and we've got that client meeting. Love you. Love you too, Donald said to her back as she left. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, Donald executed phase 1 of his plan. He sent the first email from his anonymous account to Patricia Price. Mrs. Price, my name is Donald Wan. Your husband, David, has been having an affair with his subordinate, my wife, Glenda Wan, for approximately 8 months. They have stayed together at hotels in Miami, New Orleans, Chicago, and Atlanta, all on company expense accounts. I discovered this when I surprised my wife on a business trip in November and heard them together in her hotel room. I have extensive documentation, including hotel receipts, phone records, text messages, and evidence of David making false promises to my wife about leaving you. I'm sharing this because I believe you deserve to know the truth, and because my own marriage has been destroyed by this affair. I'm attaching the complete evidence for your review. I'm deeply sorry to be the bearer of this news. The second email went to Meridian Pharmaceuticals CEO from Rachel Morrison's law office. Dear Mr. Brennan, I represent Donald Wan, whose wife, Glenda Wan, is employed at Meridian Pharmaceutical Marketing. I am writing to inform you of a documented pattern of sexual harassment and abuse of power within your organization, specifically involving Senior Vice President David Price. Mr. Price has engaged in multiple inappropriate relationships with female subordinates over the past 7 years, including Mrs. Wan currently, and your company has repeatedly covered up these incidents through NDAs and forced departures. This has created a hostile work environment and exposed your company to significant legal liability. We are prepared to coordinate with other victims to file a comprehensive lawsuit unless this matter is addressed immediately and comprehensively. Please see attached documentation. The third email went to 3 journalists James had identified. I have documentation of systematic sexual harassment at Meridian Pharmaceutical Marketing, spanning 7 years, including executive abuse of power, misuse of corporate funds for personal affairs, and company complicity, in covering up multiple incidents through NDAs. If you're interested in investigating this story, please contact me. Then Donald went to school and taught his first period class about the civil rights movement. He discussed Rosa Parks, the Montgomery bus boycott, and how social change happens when individuals refuse to accept injustice quietly. His students engaged in a spirited debate about whether peaceful resistance or direct confrontation was more effective in achieving justice. The thing about strategic resistance, Donald told his class, is that it requires patience and planning. Rosa Parks didn't just spontaneously decide to stay in her seat. That action was planned by civil rights organizers who understood the power of the right action at the right time. Sometimes the most effective revolution is the one that looks calm on the surface but is actually carefully orchestrated chaos underneath. His 17-year-old students had no idea their teacher was currently orchestrating his own small revolution. At 9:23 a.m., during his planning period, Donald's phone rang. Patricia Price. He stepped into the empty hallway to take the call. This is Donald. Mr. Wan. The woman's voice was tight with controlled emotion, each word carefully measured. I received your email. I need to know this is real. I need to know you're not some sick person making this up to hurt my family. I'm sorry, Mrs. Price, but it's real, Donald said gently. I wouldn't contact you if I wasn't absolutely certain. I heard them together in a Miami hotel room. I have text messages where David promises to leave you, where he coaches my wife on how to hide assets before divorcing me. I understand this is devastating, but you deserve the truth. He heard Patricia take a shaky breath. How long? Based on documentation I've gathered, at least 8 months. Possibly longer. 8 months, she repeated, her voice breaking. We've been married for 15 years. We have 2 children. Emily just turned 13 last month and Joshua is 10. I trusted him. I believed him every time he said he was traveling for work. I never questioned. Her voice cracked completely. Donald's heart ached for her. Patricia was an innocent victim in all this, just like him. I know, I trusted my wife too. I'm not doing this for revenge. Mrs. Price, I'm doing it because the truth matters and because your husband and my wife need to face consequences for what they've done. What happens now? Patricia asked, regaining some composure. That's entirely up to you, Donald said. But if you're willing, I'd like to coordinate our responses. We can support each other through this. There's also a pattern here. David has done this before to other women at the company. The company has been covering it up. If we work together, we can make sure he's held accountable and that he can't do this to anyone else. There was a long pause. Donald could hear Patricia breathing, could imagine her sitting somewhere processing the fact that her entire marriage was a lie. Yes, she said finally, her voice hardening. Let's do that. David's going to pay for this. They're both going to pay for what they've done to us. Donald returned to his classroom just as his phone began exploding with activity. Text messages from James, from Rachel, from numbers he didn't recognize. He silenced the phone and taught his second period, class on the fall of the Roman Empire, discussing how internal corruption and moral decay often destroyed empires more effectively than any external enemy ever could. At 10:15 a.m., during his next planning period, Donald finally checked his messages. Rachel had sent a photo. The process server had successfully delivered divorce papers to Glenda at Meridian Pharmaceuticals office. The timestamp showed 10:04 a.m. James had sent multiple updates. Meridian's board went into emergency session at 9:30. David Price has been placed on immediate administrative leave. Pending investigation. Patricia Price just filed for divorce. Her lawyer is going for full custody and maximum assets. She's also threatening to expose David's affairs publicly if he fights her. Krista Price's preliminary article just went live online. Check Atlanta Business Chronicle's website. Donald pulled up the article on his phone. Pharmaceutical marketing firm faces sexual harassment allegations. The story named David Price, detailed his position and salary, and included anonymous accounts from former employees describing a pattern of inappropriate relationships with subordinates that the company had allegedly covered up. Jennifer Brooks was quoted by name. I was forced to choose between my career and my integrity. The company made it clear that if I wanted to advance, I needed to accept that certain executives operated by different rules. At 11:02 a.m., Glenda called. Donald let it ring. She called again immediately. And again. 7 times in 15 minutes. He listened to the voicemails during lunch. First message was, Donald, what the hell is going on? I just got divorce papers delivered to my office in front of everyone. The receptionist handed them to me while I was in a meeting with a client. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? Call me back right now. Second message, Donald, seriously, we need to talk about this. I don't understand what's happening. If you're upset about something, we should discuss it like adults, not through lawyers and public humiliation. Please call me. Third message. Okay, I'm starting to get really worried. Is this some kind of joke? Did someone hack your email and send those divorce papers as a prank? Please just call me and tell me what's going on. Fourth message. And Donald could hear the panic creeping into her voice. David's been suspended. They're investigating him for something. HR pulled him into a meeting, and now he's not answering his phone. Donald, did you do something? Did you? Oh God, please call me. Fifth message, now fully afraid. I know you know. I don't know how you found out, but please call me. We need to talk about this. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. Donald, please. Sixth message. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Whatever you think happened, I can explain. It was a mistake. It doesn't mean anything. Please don't throw away 6 years of marriage over this. We can work through it. We can go to counseling. Seventh message, and now she was crying. Donald, I'm begging you. Don't do this. Don't destroy everything we built together. I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. Please give me a chance to make this right. Please. Donald saved all the messages. More evidence. Then he called her back. She answered on the first ring. Donald, I know about David, he said calmly, cutting off whatever excuse she'd prepared. I know about Miami. I know about all of it. Silence, then in a small voice, how? I was there, Glenda. In Miami. I decided to surprise you on your business trip. I heard you with him through the hotel room door. Room 847, remember? He could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, rapid and panicked. Donald, it's more complicated than… No, Donald interrupted. It's actually very simple. You cheated on me with your boss for at least 8 months. You lied to me every single day. You made me feel crazy for noticing you were distant, and you were planning to hide assets and blindside me with a divorce once. You got your promotion. I read your text messages with David. You went through my phone? Glenda's voice shifted from panic to defensive. Anger, a classic tactic Donald recognized from his teaching experience. When students were caught cheating, they often tried to make it about the method of discovery, rather than the cheating itself. I hired a private investigator, Donald said. Everything I know is documented and legal. The divorce papers you were served are just the beginning, Glenda. David's company is investigating him for a pattern of sexual harassment. His wife knows everything and is filing for divorce. And I've provided information to journalists about Meridian's toxic culture of protecting powerful men while silencing their victims. You bastard, Glenda hissed. So you're trying to destroy my career, everything I've worked for. I'm trying to hold you accountable, Donald corrected, his voice still eerily calm. You and David made choices. You chose to lie, to cheat, to plot against me. Those choices have consequences. You don't get to betray someone who loved you and trusted you and then walk away without facing any repercussions. Donald, please. Glenda's voice broke. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. It was a mistake, I'm sorry. I'll end things with David immediately. We can save our marriage. So I promise I'll… No, Donald said. We can't, because I don't love you anymore, Glenda. I don't even know who you are. The woman I married wouldn't have done this. You're a stranger to me now. So that's it? Glenda said, anger returning. After 6 years of marriage, you're just throwing it away. You won't even try. I'm not the one who threw it away, Donald said quietly. You did that the first time you slept with David. You did that every time. You looked me in the eyes and lied. You did that when you decided your career, ambitions were more important than our marriage vows. This isn't me giving up, Glenda. This is me acknowledging what you already destroyed. He hung up before she could respond. At 2 p.m., Donald met with Rachel, Morrison and journalist Krista Price at a coffee shop in Virginia Highland. Krista was an Asian American woman in her early 40s, with intelligent eyes and a reputation for thorough investigative work. She'd been covering workplace harassment stories for years. This is quite a story, Krista said, reviewing the documents Donald and Rachel had provided. Serial sexual harassment by a high-level executive, corporate cover-ups spanning years, multiple victims silenced through NDAs, misuse of company funds for personal affairs, and you have multiple women willing to go on the record. Jennifer Brooks has filed with the EEOC and is willing to be quoted by name. Rachel confirmed, I'm in contact with 2 other former Meridian employees who are reconsidering their NDAs. Christine Morrison is particularly interested. She was the first victim we know about, and she's been carrying guilt about not speaking up for 5 years. If this story goes public with Jennifer's complaint, I expect more women will come forward. Krista turned to Donald. I need to understand your motivations here. Are you doing this to hurt your wife and her boss? Or do you genuinely believe there's a larger problem that needs to be addressed? Donald met her eyes steadily. Both. I won't pretend I'm not angry about what they did to me, but David Price has been victimizing women for years, and Meridian Pharmaceutical has enabled him because he's profitable. If I don't speak up now, how many more women will he hurt? How many more marriages will he destroy? Yes, I want him and Glenda to face consequences, but I also want this pattern to stop. Fair answer, Krista said. Can I quote you on that? Yes, Donald said. Use my name. I'm not hiding. They talked for 90 minutes. Krista asked detailed questions about the timeline, the evidence, the company's response. She was professional and thorough, and Donald could tell she saw the significance of the story. This wasn't just one affair. It was a systemic problem about power, corporate culture, and accountability. When the meeting ended, Krista shook both their hands. I need a few days to verify everything and reach out to Meridian for official comment. But assuming your evidence checks out, and it looks very solid, I'll have a comprehensive story ready for Thursday's print edition, with updates as this develops. Donald left the meeting feeling both exhilarated and exhausted. He'd set everything in motion. Now he just had to wait and watch how it all unfolded. The rest of Monday was a blur of calls, texts, and updates. Patricia Price called to say she'd consulted with a divorce attorney and was proceeding aggressively. She wanted full custody, the house, and maximum child support and alimony. Her lawyer had sent David a formal letter outlining her demands and making clear that if he fought her, she'd ensure everyone in their social circle knew exactly why their marriage was ending. James sent photos from the Meridian Pharmaceutical office. Apparently, David had been escorted out by security. After his meeting with HR, employees were buzzing with rumors. The company had sent an internal memo about taking workplace concerns seriously and announced an independent investigation. Glenda sent 14 text messages that Donald didn't answer. We need to talk. Please don't do this. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. How can you be so cruel? David says you're trying to ruin his life. Everyone at work knows now. I'm humiliated. My career is over because of you. I hope you're happy destroying everything. I never meant to hurt you. Please, can we just talk face to face? I'm coming home. We need to talk. Donald, please. I love you. Doesn't that mean anything? Fine, I guess 6 years meant nothing to you. Donald read them all and responded with just one message. Have your lawyer contact mine. Don't come to the house. Tuesday morning, Donald woke to an email from David Price. The subject line: We need to talk man to man. The email was long, rambling, and desperate. Donald, I don't know what Glenda has told you, or what you think happened, but you're making a huge mistake. Yes, Glenda and I have become close. She's an exceptional employee, and I've mentored her. But anything beyond that has been completely mutual and consensual. I never abused my position or made her uncomfortable. She pursued me as much as I pursued her. You need to understand marriages fail all the time. Sometimes people grow apart. That's not anyone's fault. What you're doing now, destroying my career, contacting my wife, talking to reporters, that's vindictive and unnecessary. You're hurting innocent people. My children don't deserve to have their father's reputation destroyed. Patricia doesn't deserve this humiliation. And Glenda, she's going to lose everything she's worked for because you can't accept that your marriage was already over. I'm asking you, man to man, to call this off. Donald read the email twice, his disgust growing with each pass. David was trying to reframe the narrative, positioning himself and Glenda as victims of a vindictive husband rather than perpetrators of betrayal. He was minimizing his abuse of power, deflecting responsibility, and trying to manipulate Donald into backing down. Let's handle this privately like adults. I'm willing to stay away from Glenda, if that's what you want. I'll recommend her for a transfer to another department. We can all move on with our lives without destroying each other. Please think about what you're doing. Donald deleted the email without responding. Wednesday, the second article appeared online. More women come forward in Meridian pharmaceutical harassment scandal. Krista Price had moved fast. The article now included statements from 3 women total: Jennifer Brooks, Christine Morrison, and a third woman Donald hadn't known about who'd worked under David in 2019. All 3 described similar patterns: initial mentorship that became inappropriately intimate, promises of career advancement, pressure to keep relationships secret, and then either forced departures or lateral transfers when they tried to end things. The article also included a statement from Meridian Pharmaceuticals' CEO. We take these allegations extremely seriously and have launched a comprehensive internal investigation. Mr. Price has been placed on administrative leave pending the outcome. We are committed to maintaining a safe and respectful Workplace for all employees. By Wednesday afternoon, Meridian stock had dropped 4%. Industry blogs were picking up the story. Pharmaceutical companies that contracted with Meridian were reportedly reconsidering their relationships. The scandal was growing beyond just David and Glenda. It was becoming a referendum on toxic workplace culture in the pharmaceutical industry. Make sure you like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought of Donald's revenge. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thursday morning brought the comprehensive print article in the Hugh, Atlanta Business Chronicle. Pharmaceutical marketing firms' culture of harassment exposed. It was front-page news in the business section. Krista Price had done her homework. She'd interviewed 8 former employees, obtained internal company documents showing HR had received multiple complaints about David over the years, and documented how the company had systematically protected him through NDAs and quiet settlements. The article included a photo of David from a company event, looking confident and successful. It also included Donald's quote, "My wife's affair with her supervisor destroyed my marriage, but what I discovered in investigating was bigger than just my personal pain. This was a pattern of exploitation that the company enabled. I couldn't stay silent knowing this would continue if no one spoke up." By Thursday evening, Meridian Pharmaceutical had announced David Price's termination for violations of company policy and professional standards. Their stock had stabilized after the announcement. The legal team was reportedly in crisis mode, trying to get ahead of potential lawsuits. Patricia Price had filed her divorce papers, which were now public record. Atlanta's social media was buzzing. Apparently, David and Patricia moved in wealthy circles, and the scandal was the talk of private schools and country clubs across Buckhead. And Glenda. Glenda had been called into a marathon HR meeting Thursday morning. She wasn't fired, but the promotion to senior director was officially rescinded. She was being reassigned from David's team to a different department, effectively demoted. Her career trajectory at Meridian was over. Everyone in the company knew how she'd gotten her promotions, and no amount of actual talent could overcome that reputation. Now, Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after, Donald had stood outside that Miami hotel room, listening to his marriage die. Rachel Morrison called with news about the divorce settlement. "Glenda's lawyer called this morning," Rachel said. "They want to settle quickly and quietly. They're offering you full equity in the marital home, essentially buying out your share, so you can walk away with about $85,000 cash. They're also offering 18 months of alimony at $2,000 per month, which is actually quite generous given Georgia law, and they'll cover all legal fees for both sides. She wants this over with minimal publicity." "What's the catch?" Donald asked. "She wants you to sign an NDA about the affair and the circumstances of the divorce. She doesn't want you talking to any more reporters or giving interviews." Donald thought about that. "No, I'm not signing an NDA. Everything I know is already in the public record or has been reported. I'm not going to be silenced the way David's other victims were." "I told them you'd say that," Rachel said, and he could hear the smile in her voice. "So they've revised the offer. Same financial terms, but no NDA. They just want this done." "And my counteroffer?" Donald had discussed this with Rachel earlier in the week. "I propose you keep the house entirely. She moves out and signs over her share. You get 2 years of rehabilitative alimony at $2,500 per month. She covers all legal fees and any tax implications, and there's a clause that, if she violates any terms or badmouths you publicly, she forfeits any remaining shared assets." And they accepted. She's desperate to move on. "Donald, her reputation at work is destroyed. David won't even return her calls. Apparently, he's blaming her for everything with his wife and his employer. Glenda's realizing she gave up her marriage for a man who's now pretending she doesn't exist." "Good," Donald said, then surprising himself. "No, that's not good. That's sad. It's what she deserves, but it's still sad." "That's a healthy perspective," Rachel said gently. "You're going to be okay, Donald. This has been brutal, but you're handling it with more grace than most people would." They finalized the settlement terms. Glenda would move out by the end of the month. The divorce would be final by late January. Donald would keep the house. get enough money to stabilize financially, and would be free to start his life over. 2 weeks later, on a cold Saturday morning 2 days before Christmas, Donald sat in his living room surrounded by half-packed boxes. Glenda was taking her things, furniture she'd brought into the marriage, her clothes, her books, the artwork she'd collected. The house was starting to look bare, but Donald didn't mind. Each empty space felt like freedom. Glenda had asked to talk to him one last time before she left for good. She'd been staying with a friend since the settlement, but now she was moving to Boston, accepting a position at Meridian's East Coast office, starting over where no one knew her story. She arrived at 10 a.m., looking thinner than Donald remembered, with dark circles under her eyes. She'd cut her hair short, a dramatic change from the long waves she'd always worn. She looked older, tired, diminished. "Thank you for letting me come by," she said quietly, standing awkwardly in what used to be their shared living room. "The settlement says you can get your things," Donald said. "I'm not going to make it difficult. That's not why I'm here." Glenda wrapped her arms around herself. "I wanted to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did, for the lying, the cheating, the planning to screw you financially. All of it." Donald said nothing, waiting. "I've been seeing a therapist," Glenda continued, "trying to figure out when I became the kind of person who could do what I did. And I still don't have a perfect answer. It started small. David paying attention to me, making me feel important and valued. Then it escalated so gradually that I didn't even realize how far I'd gone until it was too late to stop without destroying everything." "You had a choice at every step," Donald said. "I know, I made terrible choices. I convinced myself it was somehow okay, because our marriage had become routine, because David made me feel special, because I deserved career success and happiness. I created a narrative where I was the protagonist of my own story, and you were just collateral damage. That was wrong. It was cruel. I was cruel." Glenda's eyes filled with tears. "The worst part is you were right about David. He dropped me the second things got complicated. All his promises about leaving Patricia, about us being together, they were lies. He told his lawyers I seduced him, that I was obsessed and wouldn't leave him alone. He's throwing me under the bus completely to save his own reputation with his wife." "I'm sorry," Donald said, and meant it. "That's another betrayal on top of everything else." "I don't deserve your sympathy," Glenda said, "but I wanted you to know that I understand what I destroyed now. Our marriage was real. It was good. And I threw it away for a fantasy, for ego validation, for ambition. I'll regret that for the rest of my life." They stood in silence for a moment. "I forgive you," Donald said finally. "Not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry anger around anymore. But Glenda, we're not getting back together. That chapter of our lives is over. We both need to accept that and move forward." "I know," she said quietly. I wanted you to understand that I'm sorry, and that I hope someday you can look back on the good years, because there were good years, without it all being poisoned by how it ended." "Maybe someday," Donald said. "Right now it's still too raw." Glenda nodded. She looked around the living room one more time, at the walls where their pictures used to hang, at the couch where they had watched countless movies, at the window that looked out on the yard, where they'd raked leaves together just a month ago. "Goodbye, Donald. I really do hope you find happiness." "You too," Donald said. "I hope Boston is a fresh start for you." She left, and Donald watched through the window as she loaded boxes into her car and drove away. He felt lighter, as if some weight he'd been carrying had finally been lifted. Over the next months, Donald rebuilt his life piece by piece. He kept the house but made it his own, painted the bedroom a color he liked, bought new furniture, turned Glenda's office into a reading room. He started dating again, cautiously at first, but gradually opened himself up to the possibility of connection. He joined a gym and lost 20 pounds. He took up painting, discovering he had a natural talent for landscapes. David Price's life unraveled completely. His divorce from Patricia was brutal and public. She got the house, primary custody, and a settlement that left David financially devastated. He lost his job at Meridian and found himself essentially blacklisted in the pharmaceutical industry. No one wanted to hire an executive who came with that kind of scandal baggage. Last Donald heard, David was working as a consultant, making a fraction of his previous salary, living in a modest apartment, and seeing his children every other weekend under supervised conditions. Meridian Pharmaceuticals settled the class action lawsuit, brought by Jennifer Brooks and 5 other women for $4.2 million total. The company also implemented a complete overhaul of their HR policies, hired an independent firm to audit their workplace culture, and appointed their first female senior vice president. The scandal had been expensive, but it had forced real change. Glenda stayed in Boston. According to mutual friends, she was rebuilding her career slowly, working harder than ever to prove her promotions were earned by merit. She was in therapy, single, focused on becoming someone she could respect. Donald wished her well from a distance. And Donald himself. Donald learned something profound through the pain of betrayal. He learned that his strength was not in never being hurt, but in how he chose to rebuild after being broken. He learned that justice and healing were not opposites, but could sometimes walk the same path. And he learned that after the storm passes, the air is often clearer, and the ground, though scarred, is firm enough to stand on again. He was no longer the man who had believed in a perfect marriage, but he was becoming a man who believed in an honest life, and that, he decided, was the better foundation for whatever came next. He learned that you can survive having your heart broken and your trust shattered. He learned that revenge isn't about making others suffer, but about holding them accountable while maintaining your own integrity. He learned that the best response to betrayal isn't rage or cruelty, but strategic action that protects yourself and others. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Donald was sitting on his back deck on a warm spring evening, grading papers and drinking wine when his phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Mr. Wan, this is Jennifer Brooks. I wanted to thank you. Because you spoke up, I found my voice again. Because you held David accountable, I was able to get justice. I hope you're doing well. You're a good man." Donald smiled and typed back, "Thank you. I hope you're doing well too. We all deserve better than what happened." He set his phone down and looked out at his backyard. The azaleas were blooming, painting the garden in shades of pink and purple. The evening air was mild, carrying the scent of honeysuckle. A cardinal sang from the oak tree at the property line. Donald had lost his marriage, had his trust violated, and had his life turned upside down. But he'd gained something. Too, self-respect, integrity, and the knowledge that he'd stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. He'd protected future victims. He'd held powerful people accountable. He'd refused to be silenced or diminished. In the months that followed, Donald often thought about that November evening in Miami when he'd stood outside room 847, frozen in shock and pain, listening to his marriage die through a hotel room door. That moment had been a crossroads. He could have burst through that door and made a scene. He could have reacted with pure emotion and rage. He could have handled everything impulsively and self-destructively. Instead, he had chosen strategy over emotion. He had chosen accountability over revenge. He had chosen to think about future victims rather than just his own pain. And in doing so, he had not only reclaimed his own life but had helped protect other women from experiencing what he and Patricia Price had endured. The lesson wasn't that betrayal doesn't hurt. It does, profoundly and completely. The lesson was that how you respond to betrayal defines who you are. You can let it destroy you, or you can let it refine you into someone stronger, wiser and more compassionate. Donald had chosen refinement. He had learned that the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's holding people accountable for their actions, while maintaining your own integrity and compassion. It's making sure that something good can come from your pain. It's refusing to let betrayal turn you into a worse person. Sometimes justice and personal healing can coexist. Sometimes doing the right thing for others helps you heal yourself. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in response to betrayal is to make sure it means something beyond your own suffering. Donald Wan had learned all of that the hard way, but he had learned it well. And as he sat on his deck that spring evening, single but not broken, hurt but not destroyed, he understood that he had come through the fire and emerged stronger on the other side. That was the real victory. Not that David and Glenda had suffered consequences, but that Donald had survived their betrayal and become someone he could be proud of in the process. If you enjoyed this story, like this video and leave a comment telling me what you thought. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell to get alerts for new stories like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.